Hey everybody, welcome back to MedEd Insights, the channel dedicated to helping you get through medical school and more. For those new to the page, my name is Brian and I'm a second-year physical medicine and rehab resident at Mayo Clinic. Everybody freaks out about what questions they're going to be asked during their residency interview. And this is where the money's at when it comes to your interview day. How are you responding to these questions? And really more importantly, it's a chance for the program to get to know you. Some of the questions can be extremely stressful and some of them can be really easy and casual. But one of the keys to doing well is being prepared, and so in today's video I'm going to be talking about some examples of questions that you can expect to be asked on your residency interviews, and we're going to break down why they're asking you these questions and ways that you can approach responding that'll ultimately increase your chances of matching at that program and doing well at your interview. As always, hit that thumbs up button if you like watching these videos and subscribe below, and let's talk about specific residency interview questions and how you can knock them out of the park. So number one, the most common question that you're going to get asked on your residency interviews by far and away is simply, tell me about yourself. This is probably the first question that everybody's going to ask you because honestly, they just want to get to know you better. They've got your whole application, which is a bunch of data, it's a bunch of words, a bunch of numbers and lists and all this stuff, and they just want to hear from you about yourself. So let's talk about how you should be addressing this question and what you should be thinking about and preparing for whenever you're asked on interview day. So I think what a lot of program directors and interviewers are trying to get at when they ask you this question is, first of all, they just want to get to know you. Like, it's an innocent, simple question, and they just want to hear in your own words a little bit more about yourself. But it's also doing something else. It's kind of giving a clue to the person interviewing you what you feel like is important about yourself and what you want the person interviewing you to know about yourself. My personal approach with this is I knew my engineering background was a key part of my application, and so whenever I was asked the question, tell me about yourself, I always in some way mentioned my history of being an engineer and working as an engineer before medical school. Try to think of those things that you think really define you as a person based on your experiences and your history, and talk about those whenever you're asked, tell me about yourself. The next question probably most programs are going to ask you is to tell them why you applied to this program. This is a tough question because, to be totally honest, there's a lot of places you'll probably apply to that you're simply applying to because you want to match and you don't really know all that much specific about the program before you go and read about it like the day before the interview. But it's still a fair question because program directors want to know like why you want to come here. I mean, if they've got 4 spots and they've got 50 applicants, they want to know why they should give it to you. And so they want to know why you're excited and why you want to be there. And while certainly your answer might be as simple as, well, because I want to match and I want to become a whatever type of doctor, you want to try to expand on that a little bit during your interview day because that looks kind of shallow. Try to think of something specific about that program, whether it be, one of the research projects they're working on, a specific aspect of their curriculum, one of the fellowship opportunities they have, or stuff you've heard from different residents. Find something that you can talk about that shows why you are interested in that program. The next set of questions I want to talk about are what we call behavioral style questions. And these are the classic job interview questions you hear about that are things like, tell me about your strengths, tell me about your weaknesses, or tell me about a time when ... And I think this is one of the kind of trickiest parts of the interview process because you have to really understand what the person interviewing you is looking for whenever they ask those types of questions. What they're really looking for isn't as much what your answer is, but how you answer the question and what your sort of approach and follow-up is to whatever the situation or whatever the question they gave you is. So let me give you some examples. It's really hard if someone asks you on the spot to say, tell me your 5 strengths, but I challenge you before your interviews, sit down and try to think of like 5 qualities that you think you're good at. And the key here is don't just think about the quality. So let's say, for example, one of your biggest strengths is that you're a very hard worker. Try to think of a specific example that you can give after saying you're a hard worker to show the interviewer that you are in fact a hard worker. It's kind of pointless to just say, well, I'm a hard worker and I'm compassionate and I'm, dedicated to my patients, but then not offer any examples. So whatever you think of, make sure you give some sort of example or have an example available so that you can back up what you're saying. The trickier part is trying to discuss what your biggest weaknesses are. And I'll tell you, people don't ask this because they want to know what's bad about you, but they ask it because they want to know how introspective and how aware you are of areas that you can improve on. And there's nothing wrong with saying, gosh, I'm not very good at time management. The key to answering this question is talk about what you're trying to do to improve on your weaknesses, because it shows the person interviewing you that you have insight into your weaknesses, but you're also making gains to try to improve those and make them more strengths. So identify some areas for improvement and talk about, when you answer that question, what you're trying to do or what you are doing to improve those weaknesses. A lot of the other questions you're gonna get specifically on residency interviews that are in this behavioral style format are questions that are, tell me about a time when ... And a lot of the ones I got were things like, tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with a coworker and how did you handle it? Tell me about a time when you made a mistake with a patient. Tell me about a time that you forgot to do something for school. Something like that. It's gonna be some sort of situation that they want to get an example of from you. The key here as to why they're asking this, they don't really care about the specific example. So nobody really cares if your mistake was that you forgot to do your notes one day or that you forgot to return a page. What they care about is how you handled making that mistake. And so again, you've got to think about what the interviewer is asking you and take it a step further than just giving the response. So for example, when they ask about a time you had a disagreement with a coworker, they don't really care at all about what the actual disagreement was. They care about how you handled that disagreement and what you did about the situation. So think about that whenever you're trying to decide how you're going to respond to these questions, and make sure that when you respond, you talk about what you did in terms of how you handled that disagreement. If they're asking you a time when you made a mistake with a patient, again, they don't really care about the mistake. They care about what you did and what you learned from that mistake. And so take some time beforehand, go online, Student Doctor Network, Reddit, some of their forum, find a list of some of these common questions that you might get asked during your interview and think about specific responses that you might give. But again, it's not about the exact response as much as it is about what you learn from the situation and how it defines you and identifies you as a person and as a medical student or doctor. And this is kind of what I mean by the importance of understanding why they're asking you these questions. You need to realize it's not meant to stress you or try to identify some specific time when you messed up or made a mistake. They're trying to get at more about your character and who you are as an individual. And if you understand why they're asking, you can give a much better answer that overall makes you look like a much better applicant. And at the end of the day, that's really what you want to portray. You're not trying to give a false sense of who you are. You're not trying to con the program, but you want to make sure that you do everything you can to put it in your favor. You want to make sure you're answering these questions in ways that are going to make you look really good so that it puts you higher on their rank list. So that's it for this video, everybody. I hope it helps giving you some examples of different questions you might get asked and kind of giving you some insight into why they're asking these types of questions. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch the other video in this series talking specifically about what you can do in the days leading up to, before, and including the actual residency interview in order to prepare the best and give yourself the best chance at being successful. As always, let me know any comments below, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos, and let me know any questions you have about specific interview questions. If you want to get some feedback on how to respond to certain things or are looking for more help, let me know. I'm always happy to help you guys out. So thanks as always for watching, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.